Welcome to DataViz Daily. I'm Kevin McGinley, and today I want to talk through what you can do when you've got a data set that's primarily defined by a date timestamp. So think of this as like an event data set where you're basically recording when things happen. You're recording the date time that they happen, and there's pretty much one row per event. And in this case, I've got a data set called UFO sightings. These are a listing of all the UFO sightings that have occurred around the world. Over time, I think this is mostly the 19th and 20th centuries, if I'm not mistaken. 20th and 21st century, something like that. Anyway, basically what we've got here is, for every sighting, there's a date timestamp that shows what day and time that happened. And what we want to do is actually create some additional columns that allow us to sort of roll that up, because we're not going to look at all 80,000 plus sightings at their individual date time that they happened. So we can come down here to add calculation, and there are a number of calendar date functions that we can use. Most notably, things like day of the quarter, day name, day of a month, day of week, day of year. We can grab the hour, the minute, the month number, the month name, the month and the quarter of the year. We can grab the second, week of quarter, week of year, year. And all we have to do is feed a timestamp into these expressions. So if I come here and click on date time and I call this year, let's spell it with a capital, we'll validate that, expression validated, hit save. I can now take that and look at how many records or how many sightings there have been by year. And you can see here that my data goes back to all the way at the beginning of the 1900s, goes up through pretty much 2014, and maybe this is expected or not expected, but that number grows significantly over time. Potentially because we've got, as we look at the sort of 90s, how it really starts to spike. I wonder if the X-Files had any sort of influence over that. But anyway, so there are other things that we can do in addition to grabbing sort of the traditional week, month, quarter, year. We can do things like, if we come down here to add a calculation, and we'll expand this out. Maybe I want to grab day name. So let's see what days. We'll put that in there. We'll call this day name. Validate that. Hit save. And now I can drag that onto my year and get an idea for, are there particular days where these sightings are more prevalent. And we can see here that Saturday, Sunday, Friday, so over the weekend, aliens tend to have a lot more going on. Maybe that's what their fun night out is on the weekends. That's how they, get their kicks. They come mess with us humans. So day name, that's interesting. And so what else can we do with this? Well, this is a timestamp, so we can also work with something like the hour. So let's grab the hour of the day and see what that does for us. So if we come in here and put hour, we'll validate that, hit save. Now we've got another calculation called hour. If I drag that in here, we'll now get a sense, definitely nighttime, and more specifically sort of awake nighttime. So what's interesting there is, we got weekends and we've got, sort of typical nighttime hours when most of this happens. Not all that surprising. And so this is pretty useful that I can create these as calculations within my particular project. But keep in mind that these calculations only exist within the project itself. So what I can do is I can actually come into the dataset editor, the stage area, and there's actually some very handy sort of single-click abilities here to do some of this same type of thing. So if I come on here to date time, because this is a timestamp, there are already some built-in features where I can immediately add year, quarter, month, name, and day. And all I do here is click on year as an example. and immediately it will add a year column to my data set here once it goes through all 80,000 records. And I could come in here and rename that to year if I wanted to. So we could call that year. But what's interesting is the actual, what it does behind the scenes. It actually wraps this date timestamp in the same year function that we saw when I was creating the calculation within the project. So if we come in here to edit column, you can see the same year function wrapped around the date timestamp. So this is a dynamically generated column within the data set that uses the same functions that we have available to us within the calculation. And indeed, if I expand here, calendar date, you can see all of those same functions that I was running through before. Now, they didn't add in the sort of one-click quick add capabilities for some of the time features, like hour, minute, second, nor does it have all of the functions like week and day name and things like that. But ultimately, this is a quick way where you can, when you first build your data set, add these really quickly into your data set, because you're most likely going to want to, group those records up to a higher level of aggregation. And the great thing is, this will persist across the data set. So you can see my year column up here. If I were to come in and create a new project, and I were to choose that same UFO sightings, notice that when we get in here to the data sets, year still persists, but those calculations that I created are now part of a different project. They're not part of this project. So that's something that you can do when you've got date time as part of the data set, and is sort of the one main driving factor for the records within your data set. But this is just a small sampling of some of the things that you can do from a time perspective. I'll dedicate another episode in the future to showing you some other things that you can do from a time perspective. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.